Okay, so this is going to be lesson number 2. We're still in chapter 5. We're learning how to loop, and we started with the while loop. The format, we start with while, and then in the parentheses we state our condition. This is the condition that is going to be controlling the if or the loop. If the result of the condition is true, then the statements within the body are going to be executed. If the result of the condition is false, then this section is going to be skipped. So in this structure, in the repetition structure, which is our third structure that we're implementing in our programs, we're going to have statements that can be executed more than one time, or none, or none. We call this type of loop a pre-test loop, because there will be statements that are going to result in the false and is going to skip the statements altogether. Like in this case right here, we can have a statement before we go into the while. The condition is going to be tested. If the result of the test is false, then the statements inside the body of the loop are going to be skipped. So it's going to go all the way through the false, and it's going to exit that loop. So it never goes in. So we have three options. One option will be the statements are going to be executed X number of times. Second option is the statements never execute, and I'm referring to the statements inside the body of the loop. And then the third option is we have an infinite loop where the condition is never false. So that means we're always going to go inside the body of the loop. So we have those three. So we did this. It's called a pretest loop, like I mentioned. And we use this to list a series of numbers. We're going to come back to the validation in a minute, but we're going first to apply this in the list of numbers. If you remember, we did a list of numbers with this program. It was called list, and we display numbers from 1 to 10 in our first try, and then from 1 to 20 on our second try. This is the program that we created last time. We have, okay, we start with number is going to be set to 1. Then we started a loop, and we were going to loop until the number was going to be equal to or greater than 21. When that was the case, then we will exit. So we are putting here, if it's less than 21, then we're going to display the number is and then the number itself. We run the program, and we have a list. Number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, all the way to 20, and then we exit the loop. Do you remember this program? Yes, perfect. Okay, so we're using in this program this number so that we can increment. Right? Another way that we can write this will be number is assign the value of number plus 1. Right? It's exactly the same thing. Today we're going to learn another method that we can increment. And this is the increment and decrement operators. We have two operators that we can use. The increment, this increases value in a variable, and it's always going to be adding 1 and only 1. When we were using the plus assignment operator, we can increment in 5s, in 10, in 20, in 0.6, any value that we want. When we were using the number as assigned number plus 1, We can also change that 1 to any number that we need. Here, when we use the increment operator, we can only increment the value by 1. So, and we use the plus plus sign. Here they have an example. They have here VAL is a variable, plus plus. This is the same as if I have value, it's assigned the value of value plus 1. What happens in this line right here? 1, it's added to value, and then that result is going to be placed in value. That is exactly the same thing as this one. When the compiler reads this line, value plus plus, what it's going to do is going to send control to the arithmetic and logic unit. It's going to add 1 to value, and then that result is going to be fetched to memory and is going to be placed in value. So we're incrementing by 1. When we use the minus, it's called the decrement, and it's going to reduce the variable. So it's going to subtract 1 and only 1. We cannot change that, okay, from the variable, and it's going to be the same. Here I put plus plus, here I'm putting minus minus, and it's the same as if I'm going to be subtracting 1 from value, and then that result is going to be placed in value. So in our program, we can change this, and we can put here number. I'm going to increment, so I can put plus plus and then the semicolon. It's numbers, right? Numbers. Numbers plus plus and then the semicolon. This is exactly the same as if I have number plus equals 1, or if I have number plus equals plus 1. It's exactly the same thing. I'm going to be incrementing 1 to numbers. So if I run this, Control F5, you're going to see that we have exactly the same results. Here are my numbers listed from 1 to 20, and the increment is of 1. 1 plus 1 is 2, 2 plus 1 is 3, 3 plus 1 is 4, 4 plus 1 is 5, 5 plus 1 is 6, and so on, until we reach 20, where we're stopping our loop. When we use the increment or the decrement operator, we can use it before or after the variable. Okay, we can use it before or after the variable. When we use it before, that means we are in prefix mode. When we use it after, we're going to have in post after mode. Okay, postfix. So we have two methods. So I can change this and put a plus plus before and a minus hyphen hyphen before the variable. When I use a prefix mode, that means what I'm going to do is I'm going to increment or decrement the variable before I can use it, before I can return the value. So it's going to be added, and then the new value is the one that is going to be used. Okay, we need to keep this in mind. It's going to affect my results only if I'm going to be using this plus plus value or minus minus value in combination with another command, like if I have cout or I have while or I have an if. Okay, but if I have it by itself, like I have it here, it's not going to make any difference on the result. But if I have like cout value plus plus, then it's going to make a difference. I need to make sure that if I use the plus plus, the prefix mode, then I'm going to be using the new value. If I use the postfix mode after, then I'm going to be using the old value first, and then the operation is going to take place. And remember how this works. If I'm going to be doing addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, modulus, is going to take, that operation takes place in the arithmetic unit. It's not in memory. After the operation is resolved and we have a value, then the value is going to be placed in the variable. That's why it's important that we know when the operation is going to take place. Is it before or after? Which value am I going to be using? The new value or the old value? Let's see one example here, and then we're going to compare. This is prefix mode. So we start by setting x is going to be set up to 1. So we put a 1 in x, and then we put a 1 in y. Then I have this statement. X is assigned the value plus y. Remember, this part is going to be solved first. And now I have a plus y, which means I add first, okay, and then the value is going to be used. So step number 1 is going to be adding, right? Step number 2 is going to be using the value. Use the value. So here I add 1 to 1, so now I have a 2. So I have a 2 in y, and that means I'm going to move that value to x. Next operation or next statement, I'm going to display x and I'm going to display y. So I display a 2 and a 2. Okay, that's perfect. Next line, I have x. It's assigned the value of minus y. Remember that y has a 2, so I do first this subtraction, right? I subtract, and then second, I use the new value. So I'm going to put here use. So I put 1 minus 2 is going to be 1, so now my 1 is going to be placed in x. So now I display 1 for x, 1 for y. Okay? Questions here? Let's see what happens when I use the post mode. Same lines, okay, same instructions. We have x is assigned 1, y is assigned 1. Then we have x is assigned the value of y plus. What happens when I use the postfix mode? Okay, I return the old value and then I increment or decrement. So what is the old value here? In y. It's a 1. So that 1 is going to be sent to x. So in x I have a 1, and in y I still have a 1. And then I have plus. So that means add. So now the 1 is going to change to a 2. So what did I do first? First, I used and then I added, right? So now I'm going to be displaying for x. What value am I displaying? A 1. What value do I have in y? A 2. Is there a difference with the other one? Yes. In the other one, I was giving out a 2 and a 2. In this one, I'm giving out a 1 and a 2. Next line. I have x is going to be assigned the value of y minus. Okay, y has a 2, right? So here, first, what do? Do I use or I decrement? I use it. So I'm going to use the old value, and the old value is a 2. So I move the 2 to the x, and then I decrement, and then I subtract. So 2 minus 1 is 1. So now I have a 1 here. So I'm going to display a 2, and then I'm going to display a 1. because that's the new value for y. Do I have a different result? Yes. So it's going to make a difference where I put my plus plus or my minus minus, okay, when I am combining it with another command. Like in this case here, I'm combining it with the equal sign. But it will be the same thing if I use an if I use a while, if I use a cout, anything is going to make a difference. So this is a very nice way to be counting. Okay, be counting. That's our next topic. We're going to be counting with the plus plus or the minus minus, or decrementing with the minus minus, instead of writing the whole statement with a combined assignment operator, plus equals or minus equals, or the long method that we learned at the beginning of the semester. So this is just another method, but you need to be aware that it's going to make a difference where you place the plus plus or the minus minus, before prefix or after postfix. When it's by itself, it doesn't matter, okay? Doesn't matter. It's not going to make any difference if I use it before or after. When I use just this line, if this is all I have, if this is all I have, I can use plus plus after, or I can use it before. The same thing here. It's only when I use this with a cout, an if, a while, an assignment operator, then it's going to make a difference. Okay? Here they are telling us how we can use it. Can be used in arithmetic expression. Let's suppose that in num1 I have a 5. Let's see. Just so that we have a 5 in there. And in num2 I have a 3. What will be the result of that operation? What will be the result of this operation right here? What am I going to get in result? I want to know what I have in result at the end, what I have in num1 at the end, and what I have in num2 at the end. I don't write the whole thing because remember I can't with this mouse. In result, I'm going to have an 8. I have two answers, a 7 and an 8. Anyone else wants to give it a try? Okay, I have a, this is what? Pre or post? Post. And this is pre or post? Pre. Okay, so post, that means if it's post, I'm going to use the old value, right? The old value is 5. If it's pre, that means I'm going to be using the new value. What is the new value? A 2. So I'm going to be adding 5 plus 2. It's 7, and I'm going to put it in result. But I'm still, this one is pending, right? Because I didn't finish this part. I just used the old one. So this is going to change to a 6. So result is going to have a 7. Num1 is going to have a 6. And num2 is going to have a 2. Do you see how it makes a difference? What will happen if I have the minus minus here? what am I going to get at the end? For result, I'm going to get an 8. For num1, a 6. And what am I going to get for num2? Yes. It was a 3, so I get a 2. Okay, let's see. This one is going to make a difference. Let's suppose that for num, I have a 3. And the same thing for limit. I have a 3. And we have this if. Is this going to be true or false? It's going to be true. Everybody agrees with that? Num is a 3. Limit is a 3. And we're comparing them. But do I have here a pre or a post? Pre. That means I add first, right? And I use the new value. So 3 plus 1 is 4. So I'm going to have here 4. Is it greater than a 3? And the result is going to be true. What will happen if instead of having the plus plus as a pre, I have them as a post? What will be the result of this if? False. Because num is going to be a 3, and it's going to compare is 3 less than greater than 3, and as the answer is going to be no. After this line is done, is executed, then num is going to have a 4, but not for the statement itself. For the statement itself, it's going to be using the new number. And when I put it on the other side, on the right-hand side, is going to be using the old number. So it's going to make a difference. Okay, it's going to make a difference. In this line, it must be applied to something that has a location in memory. It cannot be this operation, because this operation takes place in arithmetic and logic unit, not in RAM. So I cannot put plus plus here. Okay, I can put it num2 plus plus or num1 plus plus, but not to this arithmetic operation. So just so that you know that this is illegal. One of the applications for the increment is when we count. When we count. We can use to control this exit. We can also use it to control the execution of the loop, like in the application that I gave you with the list of numbers. Okay? But sometimes we need to count how many times we go into a loop. Like in the example, in the second program that we did, it was validation, remember? And we used the while to validate. So what if we want to count how many times the user made a mistake? How many attempts they made? And we're going to send that information at the end. Hey, you made so many attempts. Have you received that message in an application? Yes, right? Many times they tell us, hey, you attempted to do this 5 times, like passwords. This is your 3rd time. You did this 5 times. You did this 20 times, and you never got it right. Okay? So sometimes we want to count how to do that. So we're going to see, we're going to apply this to our program. Okay, I'm going to close this, and we did a second program. Which is test numbers. Okay, this is our program. Just so that we remember, we have a main, we have an in number, a variable, and then we're asking enter a number between 1 and 10. And we're accepting that. Then we have a while loop. While number is less than 1 or number is greater than 10, this is incorrect, right? So we're going to say the number is incorrect. Only numbers between 1 and 10 are valid. And then we're going to ask them again, enter a number between 1 and 10, and we're going to accept that value. So this is our loop right here. Okay, following the pseudocode, we have a small pseudocode there on slide number 20. Tell me what we can do so that at the end we can display you have so many attempts or so many mistakes. You have in slide number 20 that information. How do we do it? Create a variable, so that will be our counter. So we can put an int count error. And we're going to start that by setting a value of 0 because we don't have any errors. So we want to start with the value of 0. Then that will be step number 1. We initialize the variable. We declare the variable, and it has to be outside the loop. Then where do we count? Inside the loop. Why inside the loop? Okay? Because if we go inside the loop, that's when we know that the user made a mistake, right? So here, I'm going to put count error. And we can use plus plus, right? Because that will be incrementing it. I can also use count error plus equals 1. I can also use count error. It's assigned the value of count error plus 1. And I can also use plus plus count error. Any of those 3 statements will be correct. In this line, it's not going to make a difference if I use the post or the pre, because it's going to add it and use it, but I don't have any use for it until when? Until I go to the end, and here is where I'm going to be displaying you made count error attempts. And line. This is cout. Okay, so we start by setting up our variable to 0. Then inside the loop where we have the errors, we start counting. If they did it once, this is count error 0 plus 1. So the next time they correct the errors and they exit, and then we tell them you made 1 attempt. And then we go, let's suppose that the second time we have another user. They start with 0 count, and then they go in 3 times because they made 3 mistakes. First time they did it wrong, second time they did it wrong, third time they did it wrong, and then fourth time they did it correct. So count error is going to be added 0 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1. So it's going to be 3. So we're going to be sending you made 3 attempts. We're going to test it. Function F5, control F5. And we're going to see, okay. Enter number between 1 and 10. I type -3. The number is incorrect. Only numbers between 1 and 10 are valid. Enter number between 1 and 10. I put an 11. The number is incorrect. Please enter a number between 1 and 10. I put 100. The number is incorrect. Only numbers between 1 and 10 are valid. Please enter a number, or again. So I put a -9. Again. So this time I do a 1. Finally. Okay, you made 4 attempts. The number is correct. So they're tracking out the numbers of attempts that I have. This is when we count how many times they visit a page. What they are doing is they are using a counter. We have so many visits to our website, so many visits to our YouTube videos, so many visits to our blog. Okay. So many comments on our tweet. They are using a counter for that. So do you see all the applications that we have here? Just to count how many times someone visited, used, commented, etc., opened something on the internet. So the counting is used in many, many applications. Questions? Let's suppose that we run the program again and we don't make a mistake. Enter the number between 1 and 10, and I enter a 5, a perfect 5. So now you make 0 attempts. Very good. Or 0 mistakes. Your number is correct. So I got it the first time. I'm good at following instructions. Questions? Yes. Okay. If we want to stop the program, like in here in this case, if the number is between 1 and 10, and we want to tell them here this part right here, right? Where can I write and tell them, hey, you exceeded the number of tries that I am granting you? I count here, and then I'm going to be asking them. Here we can do it. I'm just going to leave it right now with an if, but we're going to change it later, okay? Because that will be our next topic. If, here we can have count, error. Let's suppose, what did you want to stop? When do you want to stop? 5 times. So we're just going to let them do it 5 times. If it's greater than 5 attempts, then we want to stop, right? So we can do here. How do we stop? We can do a return 0. And before that, maybe we can say, hey, you exceeded the number of attempts. Here's C out. What would be the other one? Please try again later. And line, and then return 0. We're going to put it to 3 so we can finish it early, okay? I'm going to remove this one. We're going to change this. This is a very simple form that we're doing it, okay, just to answer Christian's question right now. But this is not the best method. We have other methods, but I just want to make it simple right now because I don't want to confuse you because with the while right here. Okay, do you see what I did? I'm asking if count error is greater than 3, then I'm saying try again later, please, and finish it. If count is not greater than 3, we're going to get to the end of the loop and go back and ask again, right? Test again. Yes? I'm just going to change it from this place. I'm going to be asking this after, no, there's 2, right here. There's 2 lines. I'm going to be moving them. So I'm going to be asking, if there is an error, I'm going to say the number is incorrect. Only numbers between 1 and 10 are valid. I'm going to be counting because they made a mistake, and I'm going to right away check. If it's 3, I exit. I don't even want to ask them again to enter a number. But if it's one time, I'll give him another chance. If it's the second time, I'll give him another chance to re-enter. If it's the third time, I'm giving them another chance to re-enter. But if the third time, if they made a mistake, I exit. So I'm going to control F5. Yes. And I'm going to be asking, enter numbers between 1 and 10. I put a 20. Enter numbers between 1 and 10. I put a 30. Enter numbers between 1 and 10. I put a -9. And then, let's see here. Okay, I know what. I put a 20 again. And it's telling me, hey, the number is incorrect. Please try again. Yes, I put here, no, because I started with 0. I'm going to have to put the greater than or equal to 3 so that it can be exactly 3. So I'm going to do it again. X5. Yes. Enter value between 1 and 10. I put it 0. Okay. Let me try it again. Control F5 with mistakes. -4. A 56. -9. The number is incorrect. Only numbers between 1 and 10. Please try again. and we stop. Okay? Again, this is not the best method.
On the other one, I had the one where the one that had the 5. You know, I run the program and said you have a 65 time to drag it.
Excuse me?
On the other well, the same program you were doing, you know, when you had a 5.
Mm-hmm.
I ran the program and it said after 5 attempts, it told me that you have a 65 time to drag it.
Yes.
Now
Now we're not getting this. You made so many attempts. Why? Because we have it outside. If I want to know how many attempts I made, I'm going to move my line and put it here. And it's going to tell me how many attempts I made. Remember, it's always a matter of where we have our lines. The computer is just going to follow our instructions.
you can put that limit to attempts in the while statement.
Yes, we can also do it here in our while. Yes, there are many methods that I can use. That's why I said this is just one method, and it's a simple method because I don't want to confuse you with a while. Question?